Hello, everybody. I recently went back through Boil the Frog in the audiobook, like I said, and I finished it the other day. And a couple points I wanted to expand on was I didn't really emphasize enough the 10th step when you're talking about goals. The 10th step is that's the pinnacle. Like that's where you're going, and that's what dissuades a lot of people. Like they look at that 10th step and they're like, there is no way I could ever get there. And point being is when you're on the first step, the 10th step looks impossible. And it's extremely unlikely, not impossible, that you could go from the first step to the 10th step, but it's not likely. So you got to stop focusing on the 10th step. You got to look at when you're on step one, look at step two. I mean, that's what you're doing. You can't just shoot the moon right away. I mean, that's what Boil the Frog's all about is you you take your time with it. Like you're what's next? I'm doing what's next. What's down the road is down the road. We'll get there. We'll deal with that. Side note on that, great philosophy just talked about by Bill Burr was, go through the mentality that you're gonna be okay. Like you're okay. That's the one thing you need to keep telling yourself. Is like you're okay. Like it, and even if you're not gonna be okay, like that's also down the road. That's not right now. I mean, part of being, you know, happy is being present in the moment, in the now. Like if you're depressed, you're most likely worried about the past. If you're anxious, you're most worried about the future. But if you're in the moment, you're happy. This is good. I'm doing well. Got everything I want. Got everything I need. I got my health. Those are the things you got to think about every day. Not just, oh, what are we gonna do next year? That's next year. Why are you sacrificing the present for the fear of the future? That's part of being present. Is just like I say in the book. Don't worry. I mean, worrying so much isn't. It accomplishes nothing. You're just expending energy to sacrifice your current peace worrying about future events that may or may not even happen. Most likely they won't even happen and you're worried about it. So just stop. When you catch yourself thinking too far ahead, it's just like, no, no, no. What's next? What's now? What's now? What can we do right now? Because anything after what you can do right now is irrelevant. I mean, you can plan for the future. I mean, set yourself up for success, obviously, but that's part of being in the now. That's not worrying about the future. I thought about that. I didn't emphasize that enough. Is that that's what a lot of people quit. Dennis is talking about running 5 miles. I'll never do. It's like don't. You're not running 5 miles. Like you're not running a mile right now. If that's where you are, I mean, comparison is the thief of joy. Don't look at someone else and say, oh well, I'll never catch. It's like, well, so what? You are fighting against you, and it shouldn't be a fight. It should be a team effort. You should be on your side. You should be like, let's do this. Like, I can't do this. That's just something, a mentality to think about with the 10th step. A good example of that is The Core, the movie The Core. I don't know the actor's name, but he was a French actor. Horrible story right now. But anyway, in the movie The Core, they're going to the middle of the earth. They're going to try to save it. And one guy says to another guy, like, yeah, we're going to save the world. He's like, no, I'm not going to save the world. I'm going to save two people, my wife and my daughter. Like it, you know, if I think I'm going to save the world, that's too big. Like I can't think of the scope of that. Like it's just too massive to take that burden on your shoulders. Is try to do everything all at once. Like that's too big a burden. That's what the whole philosophy of the if you're on the first step, don't worry about the 10th step, worry about the second step. Or worry about finishing the first step and getting to the second step. That's it. One step at a time. Comfort zones. Comfort zone tactics. One good exercise I have found recently is this. I am not comfortable doing this at all. So, this is one of those things is like I've basically been in one form of isolation for the better part of 3 decades. So, talking to people, talking in general is just a comfort zone exercise. So, and the third topic I want to talk about was the Cherokee story I put in the book, which is actually heard it in, ironically, in Think Like a Monk. But it's the same story that he tells in his book that I tell in my book. It's about there's two, it's a young Cherokee talking to an old Cherokee, and the old Cherokee is telling the young one, there's a, there's a battle going on inside you every day between a dark wolf and a light wolf. And it's always fighting. And the dark wolf is always anger and jealousy and all the bad things. And the white wolf is joy and happiness and contentment. And the young Cherokee says, well, which wolf wins? And he says, the one you feed. And I left it at that, and that's a great story. But when you break that down, you expand on that, it's just like, are you feeding into your bad feelings or bad habits? Like, what are you feeding your brain? If you're depressed, are you listening to sad stuff or watching sad movies and just feeding into that? And it's something you got to be conscious about, because whatever you start feeding your brain, it's just going to pick up. It's like, and it's just going to show you more of that. Like, oh, that's what it's kind of like a Facebook algorithm. Like, it's like, oh, you like that video? Okay, well, I'll start showing you, like, you'll start seeing more and more and more of that content, and just figures out what you like. And that's what your brain does. I mean, your brain has its own algorithm, and whatever you feed it, it's going to start showing you more of. It's the oldest, like, seek and you shall find. Like, what are you looking for? I guarantee you're going to find it. Like, I think there was a red car challenge. How many red cars did you see on your way home? And it's like, well, zero, because I wasn't looking for it. And I was like, well, yeah, there you go. Think about that. You didn't see any because you weren't looking for it. What are you looking for? What are you feeding your brain? What kind of videos are you watching? Are you watching things that make you angry? I was doing that to myself not too long ago. I was like watching these videos that were just about road rage and, you know, people's rights being violated, and I was just getting angry about it. And I was like, well, what am I doing to myself? It's like I'm getting all spun up on videos that I'm feeding myself. It's unnecessary. So I consciously changed. I started changing what I was watching, and things have changed almost instantly. Like, probably less than a week. Like, my attitude shifted like 180 degrees. It's just like, what are you feeding? Which wolf are you feeding? You gotta consciously be aware of that. What are you thinking about? What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you absorbing? That is all energy. Like, bad things in videos, that's still negative energy you're taking in. Just think about what you're watching. I mean, I'm all about watching a movie, just zoning out in there every once in a while, at night. But just don't all day be, like, flipping, scrolling through your phone, just feeding whatever negative thoughts going on in your life. You just should be really aware of what you're watching. And it's really made a difference. Like, I almost, like, in the last week, it's just like I'm just 180 out, like, guys on the bus. That I love this picture. Is this picture of this bus, and it's real. It's this two guys on a bus looking backwards towards the bus, and one guy's looking at the mountains, and it's all dark, and he's all sad. He's just like, oh, the world is a terrible place, and you look across the bus to another guy. He's looking out over there's a view on the other side. You're looking at a mountain on one side, but if you look on the other side, there's the valley, and it's just beautiful. And he's like, oh, life is beautiful. It's just like, well, what are you focusing on? There was another variation, actually, where they showed the bus driver. And they were like, now there's three perspectives. They showed the bus driver, and they showed those guys in the rearview mirror, and then they were like, life is horrible for the guy looking at the mountain, and the guy looking at the valley was like, life is beautiful. And then the bus driver is just like, I'm present and in the moment and taking action. Like, you can say life is beautiful or life is dark, but if you're not doing anything about it, you're not participating, it doesn't really count either. So, I mean, you can have that viewpoint of life is beautiful, life is good, because it is. But you got to do something about it too. You got to participate. You got to be of service. So, I mean, that's just something to think about. What are you watching? What are you taking in? That is all energy you're absorbing. So, be really aware of that. And that's a good thing to keep in mind when you're scrolling, especially when you just go down the rabbit hole. And if you start seeing negative videos in there, I would just put that X button in the top right corner is like, I don't want to see more of that or suggest less of that. Like you can select what's in your feed. So I'm gonna be on maybe again this week. I got Assaulted Crayon again this Friday. Once we get 3 episodes done, we're gonna start posting them on YouTube. But till then, we're gonna keep recording when we can. Like I said, Craig and Jeremy, they're always traveling. Craig's got to travel again Sunday. Jeremy's probably not far behind him. So we're gonna squeeze in these shows when we can, and keep cranking them out. I'll get them edited while they're gone and give them a show. But it's good to see you guys again. Remember, challenge yourself or the world will. I'd rather face adversity on my own terms.